Welcome back, welcome back. Go to work with the one and only Reverend Fred. Y'all, how are you today?
I am fine. Go to work, go to work, go to work.
That part right there, I see we about to get into it seriously. Exposing the enemy. What's going on, Rev Shaw?
Well, what I was looking at is the fact that it seems that every major debate, everything that people are fighting over, everything, especially in the Black community that affects it, somehow is tied in to mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mental health, number one, is the enemy to the Bible. It contradicts what the Bible tells us. The Bible says things like, spare the rod, you spoil the child.
Mm-hmm.
But then they came to us and told us that we couldn't spank our children.
Mm-hmm.
They took the discipline of children away from the parents to where any neighbor, anybody, now there is a small percentage of people
Mm-hmm.
that need to be governed because they have an abusive nature. With
Mm-hmm.
all of the rules and regulations, they still have not been able to stop kids from being killed or brutalized by parents. But what about the good kids that had good parents?
Mm.
What about the kid like me who came from a good family and stuff? And when I was young, I got my spankings and I deserved them for the most part. So what happens that we take the parents' right, but then want to make the parent responsible? I can't discipline my kid, though everybody else can. If you think about it, law enforcement can use up to deadly force to enforce their dominance over you.
Mm.
But a parent can't spank their child.
Wow.
The judge can order the court to use any means necessary
Mm-hmm.
to take you into custody. When he orders you sentenced, if you go to fight, they can use every means necessary. If your boys try to break you out and they trying to fight with you, they can call for reinforcement. They can pull weapons, tasers, guns. They can do anything they need to do
Mm-hmm.
to take you into custody.
Mm-hmm.
Psychiatry can not only force you drugs a lot of times, especially if you're in the facilities where you're supposed to have rights, which we know you don't. So they can force you to take drugs, or they can mislead you to take drugs by not giving you the full consent of what these drugs can cause. But the parent can't spank the child.
Mm.
In fact, psychiatry will go as far as putting 420 votes or 440 votes, maybe 460. Yeah, I think that's what it actually is, through your brain. But your parent can't whoop you. Now, what is worse, electric shock or spanking? They knew when they came and got legislators and everybody to go along with this law that you couldn't spank your children, or you couldn't hit them more than 3 times, or you couldn't. They knew that if the penalty wasn't strong enough,
Mm-hmm.
then they knew that kids would run amok.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they got older and more out of control, then you would have to refer them over to mental health because you would have to seek help with this. Because
Mm-hmm.
now he has never learned his parameters. He's never learned discipline and that there's
Mm-hmm.
consequences. for the things you do. Believe it or not, the spankings that we used to get was immediate consequences for the thing we did. Generally, most parents would not punish you and whip you. My parents would give me a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You can take a punishment, you can take a whipping.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of those kids, I always took the whipping.
Wow.
Because the whipping is over in 1 minute.
Mm.
And I'd be running down the street still crying on the way to the boys' club. But if you told me I couldn't go to the boys' club, if you told me I couldn't go outside, that was a deeper punishment. My folks were smart enough to let me choose. Now that I choose, I'm at cars over it. I chose the punishment I want.
Mm-hmm.
So psychologically, it doesn't affect me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if a stranger came up and did something to me.
Right.
You see?
Mm.
Now, this is anti-family. This is anti-children.
Mm-hmm.
But then we go, me and you've talked about this a lot of times. We go into the educational system.
Mm-hmm.
And kids that if you taught them how to properly study, and if you made sure that they got the proper nutrition and slept right at night, and then taught them how to study correctly, you wouldn't have all these kids sitting up there with ADHD, because ADHD is a made-up diagnosis. This is the hardest thing because they have been in our head so much. I agree with what most of your audience is thinking right now. Well, something be wrong with these kids. Yeah, they're kids.
No.
And we did it, and our parents did it, and their parents did it. Kids are always in the stuff, always. And what you do, here comes the spankings, here comes the punishments, here comes the things that put it back in its proper perspective. Religion. Now, wait a minute, did we hit electric shock, we hit punishment. Religion was undermined. You know, religion is what brings in the moral codes that we live by.
Mm-hmm.
It says, don't sleep with your neighbor's wife. We think they're getting into our business. Actually, these codes are tried out over time, and then they're put in the book like the 10 Commandments, like the Way to Happiness book, like all this, because they are there for survival. When you start tearing down the moral codes of a society, you are sending it toward death. Why? Because now I cheated with my neighbor's wife, and then some neighbors saw it. You know that man be down there at 11 o'clock at your house. So the husband then pretends to go to work and then comes in the house with his gun and catches you there, and people die. That's the reason you got these codes that say don't covet their neighbor's wife, don't cheat, and you know, all of those things. These things stop people from getting hurt, stop people from getting killed. Don't honor thy mother and father, because most of us have mothers and fathers that if you start talking too much stuff, especially back in the day, you could wake up and find out you was dead wrong. These are the different reasons. When we see, let's take a very hot topic, but I'm not passing judgment. But they say it's okay for homosexuality. Well, society has gone toward that, and they're accepting that. But I don't know, especially as a minister, is that actually right? But mental health gives us no clarity. They say homosexuality is normal. Cool. I'm with that. But then why is it that if they go to have a sex change, they have to go to a psychiatrist, and many times it's put on medication if it's normal? Well, you can say, well, they're trying to prepare them for for when they get the sex change operation, that they may be bullied and all of that. I hate to inform them, but most of us that grew up in the inner city was bullied.
Mm-hmm.
You were bullied until you learned to fight. There's no difference than a gay person being bullied and a straight person being bullied. They both are terrorized. They both are afraid. And until you learn how to throw these puppies, you get bullied until you get your first victory.
Gotcha.
When you get your first victory, you have your confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can get another victory.
That's right.
And then you realize more than one person can jump you. So you go and learn martial arts. You go to boxing school. You go so you can handle your stuff, all of which I did back when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody can bully you. And then if you got good teachers and good instructors, they'll tell you, don't use this unless you have to.
Mm.
Don't you go be a bully.
Right.
You see? But we get no clarity from the field of mental health. The homeless situation is out there. Everybody's getting all of this money.
Exactly.
To handle the homeless situation, but it's still not handled. They go and clean up and sweep the streets. It's still not handled. They spending $600,000 a unit to house homeless people. When people like me and my wife work every day and our condo is not $600,000, it's right there. So why do we who work and pay the taxes, why do we live in an older place and the homeless get brand new? And if you get the homeless that are messed up on the drugs talking to themselves, then they knock holes in all of the walls and destroy the furniture and everything. What sense does that make? And mental health should be able to determine which ones should be able to live on different levels and who to handle first, but they don't have a clue. They can't help in the probation department. Kids running amok. You come in there, you're drugging them and everything. Now the kids are out of control because of the drugs, and then you run and hide.
Right.
So when we're looking at this, we're looking at the enemies of man. The enemies of the man are the ones who sanction this, who back this, who support this, and who profit on it. That's the enemies of man. Anybody that would electroshock pregnant women and children from 0 to 5 years old are criminals. Man. You could think of your grandbaby or your child when they were 2 years old and somebody electroshocking them.
Right. Sure. That's unreal.
And these parents believe authority, not knowing that these people have not come to these conclusions on clinical trial, that is subjective at best, that they don't know. And we got the documentation at our museum where they admit they can't cure people and admit they don't know the cause of mental illness. We got it on tape.
Absolutely.
But they can ingrain themselves in our mind to the point that we quote them, use their methodology, and never consider they're just fakes.
Wow.
Ooh. With that, I just want to give some information to the people, those who want to know where I get my information. Go to cchrint.org. If you are in the area of Hollywood, near Highland Vine, in LA, please come out personally and see the museum. But you can also find the museum on the website I just gave you, cchrint.org. and and you can get all of the information. All of us who are interested in being part of the task force, let us know. You can email me at fshawjr@yahoo.com and fshawjr@yahoo.com, and put Nichelle or GoDaWork in the subject line, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you, my sister. Love you to death.
Likewise, and you already know it's a delay, and it was such pertinent information. And I know that we have a CCHR task force. There's a petition that goes on that is online at cchrint.org that you can sign to cease electroshocking. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And all of us have to get involved. All of us, we cannot sit this one out. Our lives are at stake in this. The future is at stake. It's hard for people to believe because we hear that said for a lot of things. But
Right.
All right, my sister, I love
This
you.
is not the time to be desensitized. That's right. So thank you so very much, always, Reverend Shaw, for being passionate, a strong beacon in our community worldwide, because you are an international travel spokesperson for Citizens Commission on Human Rights. So until next week, everyone, go to work.
Go to work.
Amen.
Call me.